Hi, I'm Doc Hilford. Thank you for joining me here in the Timmy McGuire Theater. We're backstage so that I can teach you how to levitate with practically no props at all. Man has been interested in flying for thousands of years, and lay people respond to the effect today as they always have. It's probably the strongest magic trick you can do, and these methods I'm going to teach you can be done just about anywhere, anytime. Now, it's really easy to do, and once you learn the secret, you may say to yourself, it's too simple to fool someone. However, build-up and presentation, as always, is what make these effects work. Now, I've known people have been interested in this for a long time, but to find out exactly how long, I went to my good friend and historian, Dusty Cravens. Dusty, we're going to be teaching these people about levitations, and you did some research about the first published levitation?
Well, the first one that I know about is rather interesting. It's, as a matter of fact, it's in Mickey Hady's Encyclopedia of Suspensions and Levitations. And he reports here that Sheikh Abdullah Muhammad, better known as Ibn Battuta, wrote the first account of an aerial suspension where he saw a man assume the form of a cube and rise in the air over the spectator's head at the palace of the emperor in Delhi.
I can do that.
You can do that.
That's gone.
Yeah. That'll be mine.
Probably that was the first levitation, and almost all the other so-called levitations are really suspensions. That's where the person is just suspended in there and doesn't move. But this one was the first levitation.
And what year was it?
And that was in 1355.
Well, it's probably public domain by now. Well, Max Maven will know it, and so I can't claim it mine. A professional magician once told me the strongest effect he could do was to be able to float in a room without any wires, wheels, trapdoors, mirrors, or smoke. Let me demonstrate that for you now. Before I float up into the air, I need to make ready with a certain amount of preparation and meditation. This may take a little bit of time, but bear with me. And in this light, I won't be able to float very high, but I will attempt it nonetheless. It seems the lower the light, the easier it is for me to float into the air. I'd like for you to come just a little bit closer so that you can see my heels, my feet, as I float into the air. Move up, please. Very difficult. But as you could see, I was able to rise several inches into the air. Now, I'll need a few moments of meditation to gather my thoughts, and then I'll teach you how to float in midair. What you saw was a variation of the levitation that Ed Balducci first published in the Pallbearers Review. Later, I published it in the New Invocation along with a story. However, Ed Balducci was not the originator. It's been around for a long time. I will briefly show you the original levitation. There are tapes available on just the Balducci. However, I have some variations you'll be interested in. Plus, I'm able to rise up an additional couple of inches. First of all, rather than just doing it on the carpet or floor, which is someplace you can do it anywhere, but I like to use my jacket so that it sort of frames the effect and they're able to see my feet leave the area. Now I'll do it forward for you and then I'll teach you the angles very briefly. My heels rest just between the arch. My right heel is just between the arch and the heel of my left foot. There's a slight angle between my feet. Then I simply rise up on one toe, like that. Some of the tips are, always have your weight shifted to the right foot first. Don't start out straight and then lean over, rise and lean back. Before you rise, put all your weight over your right toe, then come up and come down, and then step back. You want to be, if you think of the audience as being 180 degrees from your back line, and you face 90 degrees, split that in half to about 135, and there is your angle, so that your left side is hiding your right toes. Now as I come up on my toes, I'm actually going much higher than normal because the gimmick is right here. I carry a block of wood in my pocket. This is approximately, it's sold as a 2x2. It's really 1.5 inches square and about 3 to 4 inches long. And this just stands in my pocket. So when I lay out my jacket flat, I position this pocket over to the corner so that I can rest the ball of my right foot on that and rise up an additional 1.5 to 2 inches. Even though there's a slope to where I'm standing, the jacket hides it. It looks just like another fold in the jacket. By having this in your pocket, you can now do the Balducci levitation and rise not this high or maybe this high, but this high, maybe even more. The key being that people will remember that you floated this high, maybe even higher. That's better than Balducci. Now I want to show you something that Tony Andruzzi taught me. It's called Andruzzi ascending. This is my friend Ian. Ian's going to levitate in a manner that you saw me do earlier. However, we're going to watch from the front. We'll watch his toes, and if I wanted, I could have someone behind Ian watching also. When you perform this, as Ian will, you'll want your subject right in front of you, about 1 foot to 1.5 feet between the two of you, face to face. So if you'll move up and stand right here, you can look down and watch Ian's feet levitate right off of the ground. Ian, when you're ready, take a deep breath and just float up off the floor. Float up, become light. Very good, Ian, and return gently to earth. Beautiful, Ian. Ian, that was beautiful. I want you to be able to do this. Would you remove your shoes for me, Ian? Keep in mind, you can have spectators from the front and from the back watching this levitation. Purchase any kind of shoes. The stiffer the shoe, the better. If you use something that's too soft, you may have some problems. The left shoe is totally ungimmicked. However, the right shoe has had a major portion of the sole removed. There's a lip right in here that allows you to keep your toes in it so you can walk around and it will be the same as a regular shoe. But when you slip your toe out, you can raise up just like you did in the better Balducci, and while they're looking down on your shoes, they'll see your shoe tips float up. The advantage is that viewers from the back will watch your heels float up just like they did in the Balducci levitation. You want to get stiff shoes and you want to try it out. Different people are different. This isn't rocket science, even though it involves flying. So I'll leave it to you to find the shoe that works best for you. To answer one other question, how do I go to a party wearing a shoe like this? Well, you don't. You can have special shoes that you use to levitate. They can be hard-topped slippers. If you need to gimmick them to make them hard on the inside, so be it. But you can remove your shoes, put on some slippers for meditation, and then float, being viewed from the front and the back. And that is Andrewsy Rising. Thanks, Ian, for your help. Now we're going to show them the masculine bar stool. Masculine's bar stool. Masculine Image taught me this levitation years ago. It was published in the New Invocation before I ever took over editorship. The gimmick is simple. It's a little envelope clip like this. Now you'll hide your feet momentarily with your jacket. Masculine used a prayer cloth, and you can get as ornate as you wish, but we're looking at impromptu method, so I use my jacket. I hold it from the edge so that I get extra length this way, and I've pulled one sleeve inside out so that it doesn't hang out and get caught up in the levitation. Now let me show you how you position this clip to make it appear as if you're sitting in midair. Under cover of the jacket, you slip your foot out of the right shoe, take the clip, and clip the two shoes together so that now when you move your left foot, the right shoe moves with it. You have to tilt the left foot out a little bit, else you'll get this foot drooping. So by tilting it, it looks as if both feet are slightly like this. The trick being that by raising your left foot, it appears that your right foot is floating also. Now the key is to levitate using your right leg. So under cover of your jacket, you're sitting like this with your 2 feet hooked together, 1 foot out of the right shoe. You act as if you're levitating just a little bit by raising your feet up and looking up and then coming down, and just raising your feet an inch or so up off the ground. Then you stand pulling your shoes back towards you a little bit, stand up, and under cover of the jacket, you move your right foot around and kneel on the chair behind you. Then, under the jacket, you lift your left leg up, and it appears as if you've taken a sitting position in midair above the bar stool. With practice, you can bring both feet all the way up to the chair, stand up on the chair, and then put your foot back into the right shoe, and it appears as if you floated off the ground into a seated position and then ended up standing on the chair. A bar stool is best. A bar stool that comes exactly to your knees. If you're doing this on stage, you can combine it with the Balducci, the better Balducci from the back. You can combine it with Andrewsy Ascending from the front, and it'll appear as if you sit on the chair, the bar stool, float into a seated position, float back onto the stool, stand up, then you have your committee move to the back and the front, and you float another 3 or 4 inches above the bar stool. If you can't find a bar stool, a common kitchen chair will work just as well, as long as you turn the back to the side so that you can extend your leg off the seat of the chair from the back. Now I'd like you to see something very bizarre. Then just forward a little bit. Okay? Dracula Rising is a half-light levitation. You can do it anywhere, anytime, on any surface. But it's done in candlelight, not in full light. It's sort of a black art gimmick, a black can. This is a paint can that I can carry. However, I'm a rather large guy, in case you haven't guessed. You can cop a bean can, a soup can, whatever is available, and wrap it in a black handkerchief, and you're ready to go. This is carried in your pocket, in the small of your back, or wherever you can hide it inside your jacket. Then before the illusion, you'll sit cross-legged. Remove your jacket and lay your jacket across your lap. Then you unload the can so that it's between your legs while you're seated cross-legged. Now come down here for a moment. This is where the can rests, but in front I have some small candles like this. These candles are just out of my reach so that they put up a slight glare to the audience, which creates the black light illusion. I'm holding a large candle here. This one will sit in front of me while I sit cross-legged here. And then I remove the candle and hold this in my hand, and that does a couple of things that I'll explain in just a moment. Under cover of my jacket, remember my jacket is removed, I'm standing in front of the can like this. I can feel the can at the back of my left leg. The jacket covers my left leg, so I turn my foot sideways, bend my knee, and put my foot on the can, turning my leg forward again. Then I start to rise up on the can and at the same time move my jacket out of the way so that by the time I'm here and they see my feet, my jacket has exposed my left shoe. Now the candle in my right hand is up about head height when I'm down here, but as I start to rise, the candle comes down to waist level. Now that does two things. One, it gives the appearance that I'm rising up higher and faster, and two, it casts a shadow across my right side that hides the can under my left foot. Plus the candles in front blur the vision of the audience. All you need to do to descend is either reverse those moves or blow out the candle. Once you're down, you're in mostly a darkened room. The only thing you need to do is clean up the trick, which is to get rid of the can. Now you can drop your jacket. Since your jacket is in this hand and you're holding a candle, you can blow out the candle, puts you in much more darkness. You can step back, walk away. They won't see the can. You can drop your jacket on the can, later pick it up, or you can sit back down like you did when you began, cross-legged, and slip the can into your jacket. It sounds simple because it is simple, but let me tell you, it's very, very strong, especially when you've got a room full of people at a party, and the line of patter I use is that I can levitate, however, the less light in the room, the higher I can float. So I can start with one illusion, walk through this, and move to a different levitation, a full dark levitation if I need to. But here, Dracula Rising, because of the candles, because of the ambiance, and take your time setting it up. Sit cross-legged and meditate and breathe, because you're going to float. Now, when you separate your feet slightly and then your legs, it gives the illusion, because your arms are outstretched, it gives the illusion that you've separated both feet, sort of like the Leipzig cane illusion, where the cane's still resting on one hand, but it looks as if you move both hands away from each other. It looks for a moment that you're moving your feet away from each other, not that you're moving your right just from your left. The illusion is that both feet spread out, so you seem as if you've been lifted up and held right about the center of your body, held in midair, and your arms and legs are free to move around. It's a frightening illusion. Try it at home in front of a mirror in candlelight, and you might even scare yourself. Now, Ian, Hillary, I'm going to show you something in this subdued light that is normally done in complete darkness. This is called Spirits in the Sky. And when I do a seance, it is a very, very strong piece. You'll be able to see it because it's lit. When it's actually performed, it's in total darkness. So I want both of you to pretend that we are in total darkness. You can perform this in a circle or with a table in front of you, as in a normal seance. The key is that there's a little bit of space between both people. I cannot just perform it, else you would be viewing dark tape, but I will show you what I do in the darkness. Hillary, please grasp my left wrist, and Ian, let me hold yours. And now, if you'll please just grab the edge of the toes of my shoes with your thumb and fingers and hold it lightly, because I'm going to levitate. Now, I'm going into a trance. This goes on for quite some time until I release my hand here and then take it in my left hand. This is the medium's grip. As I do this and I'm breathing and going into trance, I slip my feet out of my shoes and come down and pick up my shoes like this. Then I start to levitate. I'm floating. I'm floating now. You'll have to let go of my hands. Let go. Put your hands in your lap. Let go of my feet. Put your hands in your lap. Then I stand on the chair so that my voice comes from way above them, and I start explaining what I'm doing, describing every detail. I'm floating in a seated position. My feet have touched the ceiling. They're hearing my voice from above their heads. Now my palms are against the ceiling. It's as if I'm crawling on the ceiling. I've got to push myself down so my feet can come down, and as I do this, I touch people on the head with my shoes. I've looked around the room so that now I can step on different things and float around the room, or at least make it sound as if my voice is coming from the ceiling. If I have a chance before the seance starts, I'll write my name up in the corner with a pencil and then claim that I'm writing it as I'm over in the corner. Then come back, sit back down in my chair, put on my shoes, and we can turn on the lights. Now, a little tip is to take some pieces of paper and paint some glow-in-the-dark paint on it, charge them up before the seance, and then secretly tuck them around the room. No one else will see them as they're in the circle faced in, but in the dark, I'll be able to find my way around the room without bumping into the furniture and such. It's a very, very strong piece. Even though it looks rather silly in the light, it's very, very strong in the dark because your voice comes from way overhead, and both people, neither one stooges, have been holding on to my feet and my hands as I float in a seated position to join the spirits in the sky. Hillary, let's show them the mystery of the Rue Morgue. We have a dead body, a corpse, as it were, in front of us. Let's cover him with this cloth. Cover him completely from head to toe so that he no longer offends us with his deadness. And now, corpse, float up from your grave, corpse. Float up. Good. And now back to earth. Back to where you belong, oh dead thing from hell. Is he? Is he? Yes. He has returned silently back to whence he came. And to show you he's not dead, Ian, good morning, little one. The Rue Morgue. Here's the explanation for the Rue Morgue. First of all, I think you should keep in mind that it can be done very straight so that it seems very serious and solemn. I did it with a sort of tongue-in-cheek humor. He does all the work. Your assistant, you prep before the show. Now, these are impromptu levitations, but impromptu, of course, doesn't mean without practice. With about 5 to 10 minutes practice, you can set up someone before the show or before your demonstration to do what Ian's going to do right now. Jay Marshall taught me this at the final invocational that Tony Andruzzi held in Chicago. He simply told me about it, and when I tried it, we had some problems. One of the problems was that when the gimmick was engaged, you could see exactly what was going on. I'll explain in a moment, and that's why you use the hat. All that happens is when the person is laid out, they have their head turned to one side, go ahead, Ian, and their arms up like this. Their feet, however, are out like this, okay? So that they're not up, they're laying down like this. When I bring the sheet out to open it up, then do your stuff, Ian. Ian rolls away from the sheet towards me, puts the hat back at the small of his back, returns his hands up there close to his body, and keeps his head facing in the same direction it was before. To Ian, of course, he's laying on the other cheek. The reason the hat is here is because without it, you can see the slope, and then his bottom pops up, and it looks like someone laying on their back. And Jay didn't explain that part. So that's why he's wearing a hat. He takes it off and puts it on his belt buckle to begin with. When he flips over now, you can see the hat, which brings everything out nice and smooth. When Ian raises up, he has to keep his head up just a little bit so that it looks like his head is, this is his chest. He raises up on the back knee, the knee away from the audience, keeping the other leg absolutely stiff and up on his two hands. So go ahead, Ian, raise up a little bit and keep your head up like you had it before. Good, and that's what it looks like actually under the sheet. Then he comes back down nice and slowly, and then you lift up the sheet, and Ian flips over. Go ahead, grab your hat and flip over again. Okay. Now, it's always best that that time he rolled towards the sheet, but when we practiced, he always rolls away from the sheet. As we have no sheet here for him to have a reference point, it's difficult for him to know which way to roll. The key point is having that hat. Now, when you jiggle the sheet a little bit, it does two things. It disguises any movement that Ian may make in rolling over under the sheet, and also, since there is no outside leg, holding it up a little bit and shaking it covers that discrepancy. You do not need two people to hold the sheet. You can do it yourself and do the entire illusion yourself with just one helper. If you have someone to help you, as I did in this situation, it even looks nicer. When we demonstrated this, what was the response, Ian? Gee, you could start a church. So, go out and start your church with the Rue Morgue. Hillary, just listen to my voice. I want you to picture that an iron rod is running from the top of your head all the way down through your spine to the soles of your feet. You're becoming very stiff. Hold the sides of your pants tightly with your hands. Think of yourself absolutely stiff, like a board. Ian, please come around and help me lower her down to this stool. Stiff as a board. You'll be able to hear my voice throughout this entire experiment. Stiff as a board. Remain stiff as a board, Hillary. Very good. Stiff as a board. Now you're going to become light. Everyone, please interlock your fingers. Extend your index fingers like this with the tips of your fingers. Place them here, 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 and I will join you here. And on 3, Hillary, you will become so light, you will start to float. 1, 2, 3. Float lightly, higher. Now you're becoming so light, you're floating off of their fingers. Down, down. Gaining just a little weight, enough to come down to the stool. Float just above the stool. You may now return to your seats except Ian. Please hold her shoulders, please. Stiff as a board, Hillary, becoming heavier and heavier. Stiff as a board. And now, completely normal. It's an interesting experience, isn't it? This is the explanation for lighter than air. It's one of my favorite illusions because that's exactly what it is, a full stage illusion done with 5 people and a couple of chairs. You can use chairs, you can use stools. If you use folding chairs, you'll have to experiment. You'll understand when I get to that portion of the explanation. Get your 5 people before the show. Now, I was one of the 4 people in the demonstration. Usually when I perform this, I am the 6th person. I'm simply demonstrating it. Get them before the show, go over what you're going to do so that everyone knows their part. Then they can return to their seat. This may take 10 minutes. Depending on you, it may take a little bit longer, but about 10, 15 minutes, you'll have every angle covered and you'll have a perfect illusion. You won't be spending the big bucks on a chair suspension, a levitation, or anything else, yet the audience will remember that you floated the person up and then floated them back down to a chair. There are a couple added bonuses I'll teach you too. When the person stiffens up, you actually do give them the command that they're feeling the rod go through their body and they will become stiff. Here's tip number 1. They grab the sides of their pants as hard as they can and hold it tight. That keeps their arm rigid, keeps their leg rigid, and their entire body becomes stiff that way. Turn this way just a bit, Ian. The people put their hands like this. However, they're actually lifting with this entire area of their hands. And you train them to use this area so that they can pick up a lot more weight than if they're just using their fingertips. But you're using what has been referred to as a Kentonism to get the audience to believe that it's just the tips of their fingers that they're using to lift the person up. Now, the shoulder blade right along in here is like a ridge for you to lift. If you get down too far, it's going to be hard. If you hit here, obviously, if you're too far up, it's going to slip off. So right in here are where the first 2 people are. The last 2 people you can turn, or rather the end people, put their fingers below the knee, between the knee and the ankle. Not too far, but not too close to the knee. Maybe about 4 to 6 inches below the knee at the calf muscles, and they lift there. The command is that, not that you're lifting, but that the person, the subject, is getting lighter, lighter, and lighter. Now here's the added bonus. When you're the 6th person, you place your hand here and at their knees on the stiff person. When everyone lifts them to about waist level, you put your hands there as if you're making the motion that they're getting lighter. You're actually pushing down. And you push down for a count of about 3 to 5. They, in turn, have to push harder to lift them. And then when you release the pressure without moving your hands, all of a sudden, it'll lift very, very high, and you'll get it to, like, shoulder level. Oftentimes, you don't even need to use the muscle tension trick. just by suggesting. Now they're getting higher, now they're lifting, they're floating off of your fingertips. The audience can't see the contact points, so they think that it's floating off. You lower them back down to the chairs, whether it's stools or the backs of chairs. You suggest that they're floating just above it, and then lower her down. The audience remembers that they floated up above the people's fingertips, floated so high that they almost floated away, and then that they were suspended above the chairs, and you have a full stage illusion without any cost at all. There you have it. 7 impromptu levitations that will absolutely stun your audience. Just because they're impromptu doesn't mean you can't perform them anywhere. If you want to do Dracula Rising, you can do as John Cornelius suggests and make your can hollow so it can slip up over one leg, and you can hide it in your pant leg so you can walk on stage. You can combine them, as I have mentioned, into a number of levitations into one big illusion. My favorite of all is the up in the air, the lighter than air, because you have 5 people involved, absolutely no cost, and what the audience will remember is that you did a full-scale levitation with a committee around you so that there was no wires and no special iron bars coming out of the curtains. That's what they'll remember, not that the people lifted them. It's all in the words you choose. So the 3 things you need to remember about doing these is 1, the presentation. Take your time. You're not doing a card trick, obviously. You're levitating, the strongest effect in magic, at least one of the strongest. So build it up as long as you need to. Strong magic talks about a magician that brings someone into the room individually and does a small levitation. Build it up, it's a miracle. 2, be very selective of the words you use. Right? You want to use light, float. You want to suggest the illusion that the audience will remember, not what you're actually doing, but what they will remember. And 3, you need to practice, practice, and practice again. I suggested 5, 10, 15 minutes with the people you were using. Once you get the trick down, once you know how to handle the people, you may not even need to prompt them before the show. You could pick 5 people from the audience and do the levitation. All the others, except for the room org, need no setup at all. You can just start levitating as soon as you want to. The room org, you can describe it, have it done in a couple of moments. So there you are, 7 full impromptu levitations. They're ready anytime you are. Some of them use something as simple as a borrowed soup can in your handkerchief, an envelope clip, a piece of wood in your pocket. Others use nothing at all. But you're always ready to do something. Indoors, outdoors, anywhere someone wants to see you lift off the ground in an actual levitation.